Yeah, so if you didn't catch it, apparently Orioles play-by-play announcer Kevin Brown was saying some pretty disparaging things about the Orioles. I'm being, of course, sarcastic. He was spitting just straight facts. And, of course, the Orioles actually own majority of MASN, the sports network that does broadcast the Orioles game. And Noor, we were talking about off air a little bit before the show about just is teams wanting full control of the content that's out there, how their team is perceived. This Baltimore Orioles team was the worst team last year, and now they're in first place, right? The story that was being told was how far they've come, and that's actually a positive light. But now we've changed to the point where teams are suspending technically their own employees for talking about facts because it's
for doing their job,
exactly.
Being journalists about it. And like you said, I don't understand what he had said that was wrong. He was just saying the past couple of years against this opponent, they hadn't played well. This year, things have changed, tide shifted, and they're playing a lot better. If anything, he's bringing to light the fact that they struggled the past couple of seasons. Now we're looking at a different team that's got their mojo together. How that could have been skewed into a negative, but also a suspension, it doesn't make any, when I first saw that, I thought he had said something racist. I thought he had said something wrong where I was like, okay, I want to look more into it to see what had gone wrong. But when I realized that this was just a journalist doing his job, being transparent, going out there and letting the fans of the sport and the team know the proper facts, like legit just facts, and being punished for it, that doesn't make any sense to me. That to me is like, a government running something and then employing their own media people to ask you questions and then not saying anything after, because that comes down to it's infringing on free speech. It's infringing on other people's rights, and that's a bigger problem than what we're just witnessing right now. That's a huge issue.
And we see it far too much, even in this country, this city, where, let's face it, all of the teams in this city are owned and operated by media outlets that want to control the narrative.
Toronto.
That's why I said Toronto.
Sorry.
And look, Sean, we're seeing it now. The teams in the NHL, like for example, the Canucks, they hired their own in-house reporter because they want to convey the messaging they want to. And look, I get it from the team's perspective. They want to, if they're fronting the bill for all these players and they're paying all this money for that, they want to control the narrative. But as a fan and as a person who tunes into sports, fans tune in to get opinions, to get another different point of view, to get informed, right? The fact of the matter that the Baltimore Orioles are and before I finish, they're suspended their PA announcer, their public announcer, before the home opener in 2021 because they found tweets of him talking not bad about the team, but again, just saying something negative about the team in a factual way. Right? So this shows you that in North American sports, at least now, that teams don't care about having any journalistic integrity, having anything to give fans to, opinion-based or anything like that. They want to control the narrative. Everything has to be positive, and nobody is going to be held accountable.
Yeah, I think that's not like the majority of what's going on in sports media. I do see that. I do see some teams that only look at things a certain way, whether it be because that's what the broadcasters want to do, like somebody like a Jack Edwards for the Boston Bruins, or a team-oriented thing like you're saying with the Vancouver Canucks. What's happening here in Baltimore is just the owner apparently has very thick skin. John Angelos has done this multiple times. He doesn't like when broadcasters bring up past players. He doesn't like he sort of reprimands announcers for bringing up players that used to play for your own team.
I think you're too sensitive to be running anything.
And then you've got he says that you're only allowed to wear outfits
They can only wear Orioles
with
branded,
the logo on it, which fine. You know what I mean? Fine. I mean most places you go, there's people have uniforms, people have a dress code that they're expected to adhere to. That's fine. It's not my cup of tea, but if that's what you want to do for your job, I think that's very reasonable. But John Angelos is like worth $2 billion, right? So he's worth $2 billion. The Baltimore Orioles have the 28th payroll in the majors, right? So they're a cheap organization. They lay off they made cuts to like Gary Thorne back in 2021. They cut like 6 broadcasters from MASN, which again they own about 77% of. And now they're suspending Kevin Brown for I don't know. I wish I could tell you what he said. Just pointing out facts. Like, again, I think what was it there? The Orioles haven't won 16 straight series. They haven't won in the Trop, which is terrible. And if that's what the facts are, then you should be allowed to spit the facts. Like, the graphic was made. It's not like he went off script and said a bunch of disparaging things. He wasn't like Tom Brenneman and dropped a homophobic slur or racial slur or something like to that effect. It's just crazy to me that Kevin Brown got suspended, and apparently he's supposed to be coming back soon, which is great, but this should never have happened.
Well, no, the thing is, you touched on it earlier when you were explaining. This is a positive. Like, they were so bad, but now look where they are this year. They're playing so well.
But I think Sean made a good point in that where it shows, if you look at the discrepancy of how much he makes versus how much they're spending on the roster, he definitely doesn't want to be asked questions about it. So he's making sure that anything he does in that locker room, whatever he does in that company, he's not going to employ people that will hold him accountable for what's going on. And that's an issue, because then you lose credibility as an organization and also as a journalist. Like, if you're a journalist working for somebody like that, your fans who are watching you do your job will wonder why you're not asking the right questions and why you're being actually complacent to what's taking place in a negative way. I don't want to bring this back to Toronto, but unfortunately Toronto's had this rampant problem as well, where we have an entity that owns all of our sports, and they get to decide who gets to cover it, who gets to come out there, and who they get to give credentials to. Unfortunately, they also want there to be a positive reinforcement when it comes to displaying their sports. So as a journalist, you start to question yourself in, wait, how do I now get to cover this team? Do I cover them just fair? Do I get to cover them as what I see? Or do I now have to come out here and put a positive spin on everything so that my employers are happy? Right. And that is a massive, massive issue, because again, it is going back on free speech, just freedom in general. And you're not being transparent. And when you're not being transparent, your employees, and then again, your fans will just not respect you. And what you're seeing now is that's what's happening, right? Like in Toronto, it's tough to go out there and question why Masai's making those mistakes, because people are afraid. They don't want to ask the questions to the boss. And that power dynamic can't be at play when your job is to be a credible journalist who's there to just inform, to just lay facts. That's your entire job, just lay facts. No emotions, no opinions, nothing. You're just there for facts. And now they're making them go against their own moral compass, which is just absolutely nonsense to me.
They want to control the narrative. These teams want to make sure, and they just want to, like you mentioned, basically censor these journalists. So the fact that, if you want to get access to my team, my players, you better say X, Y, and Z. And if not,
this stuff happens in my home country, in Pakistan, and this with their government. And to see that play out in the sports sector makes you worried, because you're like, if people can get away with that, how much sooner until it starts to affect us on a whole, where it might even be happening right now. I don't want to bring it to media and in politics and stuff, but it's just like, it's a small thing in a large scheme of thing where you now will get to question your reality, which is a problem.
Yeah, and what I did like to see too was a lot of the fans and broadcasters alike come to Kevin Brown's defense, right? And as they should. But I'm hoping, and again, you get these kinds of media uproar, sometimes bad, sometimes good, but it usually speeds up the process. So hopefully, they get this uproar from the fans, from Orioles fans, from baseball fans, from these broadcasters that are like, hey, this guy did nothing wrong. And hopefully he comes back in the next couple of days so that we can stop talking about it, because it's ridiculous that this is even a thing that happened when there are a lot worse things being said. And B, hopefully he just comes back and is ready to do his job, because he's very good at it.
He is, and I think he sped off again. It's bullshit what happened. Yeah. It's flat out. It's bullshit that what the Baltimore Orioles have done. And it's also bullshit what teams are doing now, censoring people to the fact where they are scared now to say what they really truly feel and use facts to back up their opinions. And now they're scared that they don't get access and do their job properly because teams want to control the narrative. But again, that's just part of the BS of pro sports and what billionaire owners want to do.
That's a whole different thing too, right? I mean, the freelance model of media is a problem in general.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So there's not a lot of security.
Nope.
There's not a lot of, so you're right. Sometimes you just bend.
You got to bend the knee.
So that you don't get in trouble. But I mean, that's what's beautiful about A, what we're doing here, and B, like what a lot of people can do now with it's just so much easier to have the technology to create your own thing, be your own boss, and speak your mind, because I think that's what's more important at the end of the day.